Hi everyone, you're listening to When They Forget, an Alzheimer's and Dementia Stories podcast. We're happy you're listening today, and we've got a really great show for you. If you have an Alzheimer's or dementia story to share, we'd love to hear it. You can call and leave us a voicemail at 850-254-9595, and we'll share your story on the show. You can also record a voice memo or video on your phone and email that to us at whentheyforgetpodcast@gmail.com. And if you don't want to record your story, you can send it to us in an email and we'll read it on the show. All right, let's get into it today. We have some stories from our listeners for you. And then after the break, Debbie and I talk about our plans for Mom's birthday celebration, which we're having this week at the window of her memory care. Our first story in this podcast comes from Leslie. She talks about the decisions she had to make for her mother with Alzheimer's and her dad, who has dementia.
I've been thinking about the decisions I've had to make regarding Mom's care. It often seems that there are no good decisions to be made. The situation just doesn't allow for what feels like a good decision. There's never been a situation in which all of us have felt happy with what we are doing. So sometimes you're forced to make a decision and just move forward and see what adventure in Alzheimer's awaits you. I knew things were bad at Mom and Dad's house in 2017 because the neighbors constantly told me about the unsettling events. My dad used a propane torch to burn his weeds, and one very windy day he almost started a major fire, and the neighbor called the fire department. I was told if this happened again, they would arrest him for arson. Then the calls came in about my mother wandering the neighborhood at 1 a.m., knocking on neighbors' doors in her underwear only. This was the beginning of Mom's wandering behaviors, and Dad was constantly losing her. Mom was physically very healthy, and Dad was becoming frail. She would leave the house at all hours of the day and night, and we knew that she could easily get lost in her own neighborhood. One day, Dad called me in a panic that he'd been looking for Mom for more than an hour, and it was now twilight, and he was concerned. I immediately got in the car and made the 30-minute drive to Sacramento. I found her quite quickly in their spare bedroom sleeping. Dad had not checked the house. Mom was also becoming a danger to Dad. She had a delusion that her husband was her father, and there were feelings of anger and abandonment with that delusion. She was becoming violent and could have easily injured Dad in one of her outbursts. Dad was in complete denial about what she could do to him in her violent outbursts, and Dad's own dementia left him unable to clearly see the reality. He thought that he could tie her to him with a rope all night to keep her from escaping. So we tried an in-home care provider, but that didn't solve the problems. Dad thought that the caregiver should be doing deep cleaning. He wanted her to mop the floor on her hands and knees, trim the bushes in the yard, clean the tile grout, etc. Dad thought she was a housekeeper and didn't understand that sitting next to Mom and crocheting together and going for walks together was providing care. So next, we tried a longtime friend with experience in caregiving. That also didn't work out. Mom's behaviors were too difficult for the friend, and the friend just cried. Things escalated in the fall of 2017, and by December, it was obvious that the situation could not continue. Dad was exhausted from the care of Mom, and neither of them were safe together. One day, I drove over and picked up Mom and brought her to my house to stay. It was Christmas time, and my daughter, her new baby, and her 3-year-old were also visiting. And one night, my son-in-law, Mike, found Mom staring at the baby and talking about how all her babies were dead because she had killed them. I had to take Mom to work with me during the day. My boss was very kind, as I came to work every day with my mother in tow. She would mostly sit in a chair and crochet all day. One day, I lost her from work. She wandered out the front door and disappeared. I finally found her a few blocks away. Clearly, this situation could not go on, and she had to be moved to a retirement care facility. I found one close by that I thought would appeal to my father because it was close to a major university and had many educated men and veterans as residents. I was hoping that both he and Mom would move in together, that he would be willing to move so he could be close to Mom. We signed the papers to move Mom in, but Dad flat out refused. No, absolutely not. The day we were to move Mom in, Dad fell and sustained a large gash in the back of his head. We spent several hours in the emergency room. Just as they were releasing Dad, Mom fainted, probably because of lack of food and water. Mom was losing her desire to eat and didn't realize that she felt bad until she fainted. She was almost admitted to the ER also. What an adventure. Move-in day to the care facility was indescribably awful. We'd previously set up her room with furniture and familiar things. We went over at dinner, sat her at a table where she tried to chat with other residents, and then just left. It seemed better to do it quickly. I cried all night. Mom spent the next months feeling angry and abandoned by her family. She probably belonged in assisted living instead of memory care, but because of her wandering behavior, the facility required her to be in memory care. Mom lived at this facility for about 8 months before they asked her to leave. Her time at this memory care facility is a whole other story for another day. On the day when we were told she had to leave, the only place for her to come was to my home. Once you've been kicked out for bad and violent behavior, it's very difficult to find another residential care placement. Thankfully, during the time Mom lived in memory care, we found a wonderful caregiver who was willing to watch Mom full-time while I worked. So that's been our situation now for the last 2 years. I know that one day my mom will need to go back to a facility, but I don't know when that will be. Perhaps when she no longer knows who I am. We have some good days and some horrible days and many frustrating days, but we just keep going. As I'm working on these thoughts today, I've cleaned up poop in Mom's underwear for the 4th time this week. Soon, I'll have to make another decision. When to start using depends.
I want to thank Leslie for sharing that story and for being so incredibly honest. I am 100% blown away that Leslie took her mom to work with her. I don't know why, but that gets me. What an understanding boss, and what an amazing, amazing thing to do. Leslie has been a big supporter of this podcast, and she and I email back and forth quite a lot. I really appreciate her sending in her stories, and I really appreciate the support.
Up next is a listener story from Christine. We really appreciate her father's story that is well documented on social media and her contribution in this episode.
Hi, my name's Christine. I live on the south coast of England. My dad is 90 years old and he was diagnosed with vascular dementia in 2019. In this podcast contribution, I'd like to share my thoughts on why I'm following others with loved ones suffering with dementia on Instagram and Facebook. First of all, let me explain why I set up an account on Instagram sharing my dad's dementia journey. I wanted to record the lovely memories I was making with my dad. Also, I did a lot of activities with him during lockdown and hoped it would help others. I also felt very alone with the feelings of grief, losing my dad as he was. I have a very supportive husband and family, but sometimes you can express your feelings better to someone who really understands what you're going through. I'm pleased to say there are some lovely caring people who've helped me along the way through Instagram. Just to give you a bit of background about my dad, he still lives on his own with a lot of support from his daughters and son. As my husband and I are the only ones retired and self-isolating, we visited him every day for 8 weeks, from 2 o'clock till 8 o'clock, cooking his meals, bringing in his shopping, cutting his toenails and his hair, doing his cleaning, etc., etc. As far as his dementia goes, his memory is getting slowly worse. He gets very emotional, very logical, a bit paranoid, and more angry over little things. For example, I asked him if I could borrow his paper shredder overnight. Well, in his mind, I'd taken it without asking. He phoned my sister saying I had no right to take it without asking him, and he needed it back. He got very angry. When I said I was bringing it back that day, he said, well, actually, you can keep it. I don't need it. He can't always remember if he's eaten his breakfast, and he'll sit in his house with the sun belting through the window and the heating on full, then wonders why he's so hot. He's cried in my arms and on the phone and told me he doesn't want to wake up and wishes he could commit suicide. He just struggles so much because he knows he's forgetting things. So having explained all that, I think he'll agree that my dad is really not too bad compared to others that I follow on Instagram and Facebook. There are others where loved ones are so much worse than Dad. I could and do cry for these people, the ones where their loved one don't recognise them anymore, or where they're up and down all through the night, or wandering off in the daytime, or the carers who are at their wits' end because they're so tired, or where their loved one no longer recognises what a spoon is for, or where they're holding the hands of their loved ones as they're dying. I think I might be putting my head in the sand, but I can't ever see my dad getting like that. I try to reach out to these poor carers, but I feel out of my depth a lot of the time. If you are listening to this podcast, one thing is for sure, we're all on this journey together, at whatever stage your loved one is at. I never knew what it meant to have dementia until my dad was diagnosed. I just hope and pray that you are getting the love and support that you need.
Christine, thank you for sharing some experiences with your father. Your story helps us create a community that none of us really wants to be part of, but it is so comforting to know we are not alone and we are part of this community. It's amazing. Thank you again. Our next story comes from Bill Cohen, who is quickly becoming one of our favorite contributors to our podcast. He talks about the experience of moving his mom to Oregon.
Hi, I'm Bill Cohen, a former Alzheimer's caregiver. In 2004, my mother Sheila was showing signs of dementia. In 2005, she lost her home in Hurricane Katrina. In 2006, the effects of the trauma and the progression of her disease became clearer. After she safely evacuated from the Gulf Coast, Mom was with other family members on the East Coast while I handled her affairs and became a long-distance caregiver. However, it became apparent that I needed to move her to Oregon and take on the daily role. Fortunately, she was still ambulatory and somewhat lucid, but the burden on my aging aunt and step-uncle became too much, although Mom was in a care community. My other aunt flew down from New York City, picked up Mom, and flew her out to Oregon. She enjoyed her visit, including the coast, and I knew that she welcomed the opportunity to live near me. I'll never forget when she saw the assisted living that I chose for her. She walked to the lobby and said, "This is nice. I can live here. Can I afford it?" I replied, "Yes, Mom." However, inside I was thinking, for a little while. Yes, that was a bit of a therapeutic lie, or as I like to call it, compassionate deception. Less than 2 months later, after a much-needed and long-planned vacation to Mexico, and while she was still capable, I flew back to Florida and returned with her to Oregon. I took advantage of the wheelchair and other services for people in need, so the movements in the airport and on the plane weren't too challenging, except for one aspect, the restroom. With my mother, for obvious reasons, I couldn't go in the women's areas, nor could I fit into an airplane washroom with her. It required complicated communication through the doors, at the entrances, and with the help of strangers. But we made it, and she was a good-natured traveler for her companion and elder son. Other challenges arose. We waited belatedly for her furniture and other belongings to arrive cross-country, had her at her home temporarily with aides to help keep an eye on her and keep her company, since we worked full-time and couldn't leave her alone safely, and then a brief stay in a furnished apartment at the assisted living facility. Fortunately, things came together eventually in terms of her care, her belongings, and her settling in. However, the next challenge and move came in 2009. The nursing staff and her family had predicted she would remain there for less than a year. It was for only 10 months. During a norovirus quarantine, she started exiting and doing dangerous behaviors. The staff made it clear she could no longer be left alone and would need 24/7 monitoring. Remember I said that she could afford it initially? Well, she ran out of money at that exact time. So my wife and I alternated between staying overnight with her and being home, and going to our respective jobs while Mom was in adult daycare during the daytime. I didn't see my wife for 2 weeks. Once we got Medicaid approval and set the date for the move to memory care, we arranged for her to be in daycare. With the help of the wonderful friends, we moved what little she would keep into the smaller shared space in a secure area and the rest into our garage. Not the first time that happened, by the way. Logistically, it went fine, like clockwork, actually. Even when we brought her into the new care area and was given a tour by the head nurse, she seemed open and agreeable to it all. As is often advised, we left her with her new caregivers and went out for lunch nearby, thinking that went surprisingly well. We were sadly mistaken. We went back to see how she was doing, and she was madder than a wet hen, yelling at me, "How dare you move me in without my permission? I didn't sign up for this." Fortunately, the succeeding days and weeks went better, and we all adjusted to the new reality. She was there for 4 more years with excellent care by an amazing staff and later hospice before she passed away peacefully with me nearby in 2013. So, fellow caregivers, it's best to be proactive and plan accordingly while your person living with dementia is still capable. Not after an emergency makes things even more difficult. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Bill. I can remember when we saw Mom's assisted living place for the first time. We were excited about how excited she was. In an upcoming episode, Jen and I are going to talk about moving our mom from Arizona to Oregon. Believe me, we can relate to some of the things you experienced. It's amazing to know that we weren't alone.
We have the links to Christine's Instagram account in the show notes below. We've also included the links to Bill's Facebook group for caregivers and to his website.
Thank you so much for listening. We want you to take a minute and ask you to rate and share our podcast. We're a new podcast, and your ratings and shares really help others find us on iTunes and other podcatchers. You can find us online at whentheyforget.com, and we're also out there on most socials at the handle When They Forget. If you have an Alzheimer's or dementia story to share, you can find out how on our website. Again, that's whentheyforget.com.
Hi, sister.
Hi, sister. How are you?
Good, how are you?
I am good. So we say that every time. I just realized because as I edit, I listen and I hear that every time. I am good.
Yeah.
I am good.
Sometimes I say great once and you've laughed at me.
Oh,
so
yes.
I went back to good.
Good.
Because apparently good is not laughable.
Oh, yes. So we were going to talk for a little bit about Mom's birthday because it's coming up this week and it's been a topic of conversation a few times in our podcasts. We were hoping we would be able to go inside, which we cannot.
Yes, I had the COVID-19 antibody test done. Even though they didn't say if you have a positive antibody test, we're going to let you in. But I thought maybe it might allow me to go in.
Yeah.
I came up negative, which means I have not had COVID.
Yeah.
Or any strain of coronavirus, which is interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting.
So, yeah, we're not going to be able to go in. So we're going to have to do something at the window, which I think, under the circumstances, we have come up with a pretty spectacular idea.
Yeah, I think so too. So you're coming into town with your husband and son. Yeah. And my oldest son is coming to town. He actually is probably landing at the airport right now. And we have my daughter and her family. They're going to show up. So that's 2 kids and the brand new baby. You can't really go wrong with a 5-month-old, I don't think.
No, because they're so cute at that time. I mean, it's a lot of giggles and laughs and smiles.
Yeah. I invited my daughter's stepmom.
Oh, okay. And I invited Lucas.
Yes.
And he is going to come. Not sure if his girlfriend is going to come.
Yeah, I made sure he knew that she was welcome, but I didn't know, I don't know what her family's rules are around gathering. So we're definitely under the number of people in Oregon that are allowed to get together. And I figure I've told everybody to bring camping chairs.
And we cannot forget.
Yeah.
We invited the accordion man.
We did. I'm so excited.
I know. I was so happy when he said he would come because I just wasn't sure.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure how he was going to feel about it.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure what kind of situation he's in because of the pandemic. But when he answered the phone, and I know when he answered the phone, he thought I was a solicitor.
Yeah.
Because he answered the phone, and I said, I'm calling for Joe, kind of like a solicitor would do or a telemarketer. He was like, yeah. And I said, Joe, the accordion man? And that's when he went, oh, yeah. And so he remembers Mom. I mean, of course he remembers Mom, but, you know, he plays at a lot of different memory care units and nursing homes.
Yeah.
But he remembered us, and he remembered Mom, and asked him if he would come and play. I told him we'd pay his rate. And he said, oh, no. He said, this would be my birthday present to your mom.
Mm.
And he got really excited, and, you know, it probably made him feel really good that somebody out there has missed him so much, and his, you know, just that little bit of sunshine that he brings to her week.
Yeah.
Every Saturday is, you know, something that she's really missed, and I'm sure, well, he told me that he has missed it as well, so he's gonna come and he's gonna sing some songs.
I'm so excited about that. I'm so excited.
Too. I love the accordion man.
Yeah, it will be good. We're making cupcakes so that we can have cupcakes go inside, which will be easier for Mom to hopefully blow out the candle through the screen window. And then eat cupcakes, and I figure we'll all take pictures, so we'll just all have our masks for when we get close enough to the window to take photos.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that'll be great. You know, of course, the big variable in all of this is who is going to roll up to the window in her wheelchair. Is it going to be happy, excited Bobby, or is it going to be angry, get me out of here, I'm working and you're interrupting me?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and is she going to be irritated that we are all outside and she's inside and she can't come out? I mean...
Yeah, she can't be a part of it. She has to watch from the window.
Yeah.
That really may frustrate her, or it, you know, all the people gathered there to wish her happy birthday might make her very happy. It will all depend on, you know, what kind of mood she's having that day.
Yeah. We'll make the best of it. It's definitely...
Regardless, we're going to have fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I was thinking, when all this started, it was March, which seems like so long ago. I mean, Australia almost burned up, and I completely forgot about that.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. And so it's been 4 months. By the time we hit her birthday, it will have been 4 months. In fact, it's 4 months today. Since the last time I saw her, longer than that for you. Mm-hmm. And I think about it now, and I think about March, and I think about what I was going through at the time, like she's going to forget us. Well, that hasn't happened. She still remembers. When we FaceTime, she remembers. She says hi. Sometimes she knows that we're her daughters. Other times, not so much. But she still remembers our faces. And I just thought, July or August was so far away that, of course, by then this will all be over. We're all just going to go home. We're going to go home. We're going to stay at home for a month or two. We're going to flatten the curve. It's all going to be over. And by the time July or September rolls around, we're going to, be going in with masks on, but it'll be fine. And it is so far from fine.
I know. I thought the same thing. I think I don't know. I don't really consider that I buried my head in the sand, but maybe it was just so far out there conceptually for me to think about.
Yeah.
That because this is nothing we have ever gone through before.
Yeah.
That I really thought, I remember when you told me, you texted me, and you were at the beach, and you said, we're going home because the governor's putting a shelter-in-place order. Mm-hmm. I was flabbergasted. I thought, how on earth? It's a cold.
Yeah.
Is what I thought. I thought there's no way. I mean, I live in Idaho. I live out in the middle of nowhere. There's no way it's ever going to affect me.
Yeah.
And, less than a week later, we had the shelter in place.
Yeah. In all of the imagination or things that I imagined about Mom and, the end and all of this is not even, I mean, hell's bells. I could never have thought of anything like this. Ever.
And I don't think anybody had either, except for the people that did Contagion, the movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
They were the
yeah.
They were the only ones. And I saw an interview with that guy, and he was saying that he got a lot of his information from, CDC medical experts, that this was a possibility.
Yeah.
Well, you go to the movie and you're being entertained, but never in a million years. It's kind of like The Day After Tomorrow. Now I'm thinking that actually could happen.
Yep.
Because they say it could. Or Armageddon.
Yeah, the San Andreas Fault. That movie with The Rock. That could happen.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
I'm now believing because, I never saw Contagion because I have such a, I have anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
I watched, way back when I watched ER or I watched, any of the medical dramas, I automatically had the disease that they were highlighting that week.
Yeah.
And so for me, a movie like Contagion is not something that I would have ever watched, but I knew what it was about.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew other people who had seen it. But really, I mean, they're the only ones who really knew something like this was possible. Yeah. It wasn't even in my thought process.
Yeah, mine either. When Brian and I first learned of what was going on in China, we watched Contagion because we thought, oh, that'll be entertaining. I don't know what the hell we were thinking. And then we went out and bought 14 days worth of food thinking, well, if we're locked at home or told we need to stay home for 14 days, we'll have some food. And that was in February. And and it's July. And it seems like the last 4 months have lasted longer than my whole life up to this point.
Oh, I know. It's just it's dragged out. And, up here it's a little bit different. Things are more open.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we still are, I think we're in phase 4, which is no huge gatherings, social distancing, and some places have to wear masks. But, so we're not anywhere near your little phase 1 that you've got going on. But it's still, just something you think about every time you go out.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be when you went out, you remembered your purse, your sunglasses, your phone. Now you have to remember your mask, your, hand sanitizer, all of that stuff you have to remember to take with you because, it's a necessity. It's just everything.
Yeah.
Everything has shifted so much, so quick.
Yeah.
And the only connection I can make is September 11th, is that day, and I know this is a lot different than that, but that day completely shifted, how we felt.
Yeah.
And, how we traveled, our air travel, all of that, everything on an instant, on a dime just changed. Yeah. And this, I liken it, it's the only thing that I can even connect with in my memory. Is September 11th and how much the world changed after that day. So I know that when this is over, our world is going to look different. Mm-hmm. Things are going to be done differently.
Yeah.
And, it's just something that we're going to have to get used to. It's just going to be a shift in our reality, and we'll get used to it. Like, we're used to different air travel now.
Yeah.
I mean, when I first flew after September 11th, it was weird that people couldn't walk down to the gate. You had to take your shoes off. All of that stuff was odd to me. Now it's normal.
Yeah.
I'm just ready. I know I know that if, I'm flying by myself, Tom can't come to the gate and say goodbye. He's got to say goodbye before the metal detectors. We're just used to that now. And I know that we will get used to the different world that we're about to embark on.
Yeah.
Or walk out into. Because it is going to be different.
Yeah.
But I know I'm waxing philosophical today, but it's the other thing for me is, our life is going to be completely different at the end of this too, because our mother, for some people, their lives, all the people in their life are still there, still the same, and they're going to come out the other end, and those people are still going to be there. For us, when we come out of this, whenever that is, our lives will be catastrophically changed.
Yeah.
Because our mother's not going to be there anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, whether it's mentally or physically or both, she's not going to be there anymore. Not like she was
before
in February and March when we could hug her. She knew who we were. She had those memories.
Yeah. Well,
she doesn't really have a lot of that anymore.
No. And I mean, I don't even know if she remembers before. She still thinks she works there. There's a lot of things that, the paranoia, things like that are still there, wanting her money. Where's her money? But I say something like there's a flu, I'm at home, there's a flu, and she doesn't really remember. I mean, her world, the shift is permanent, has taken over. And I think the other thing that's difficult for you and I is actually having some awareness now about how long it's going to be before we can go back in there based on the rules and the phases in Oregon. It's a long time. It's, probably more than a year, unless there is some massive Congress passes a bill quickly or something happens. There's going to be no inside visitation at all for us until there's a vaccine. Until that's Oregon's plan, is until there's a vaccine.
And I really don't think that anybody's going to stick their neck out and because, worst case scenario, which I don't agree with this at all, but worst case scenario, somebody goes in, they have, COVID, and they wipe out an entire memory care unit. No one is going to put their neck out and say families should be able to go in knowing that that's a risk. Even though it's a very small risk, no one's going to put their neck out and put their neck on the line for families like us.
Yeah.
Who would never in a million years put our mom at risk or any of those people that live there.
Yeah.
But they still will not let us in.
Yeah.
So, I mean, no one's going to fight that fight for us.
No
one's going to pick up that mantle because they're just not willing to risk it.
Yeah.
In the current political climate, that no one is going to.
Yeah.
And no one's willing to risk that.
Yeah.
So we are in this reality where we have to cope with what we have.
Yep. Make do with what we have and make the very, very best out of it that we can possibly make. And that is to have a bunch of people in camping chairs show up
in a parking lot outside a window to wish her a happy birthday, and she's not going to know half the people there.
No.
But this is how we make the best of it, is we have a party in a parking lot outside a freaking window.
Yeah. And we invite a guy to play the accordion.
I know. You know what? In the list of the crazy crap that people have done during this pandemic, I think you and I are going to be right up there.
Yeah.
With this parking lot birthday party.
Yeah, and I am not telling them. I am not calling ahead of time. I'm not letting anybody know, because my attitude about this is it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission.
Absolutely, I agree. Yeah, I haven't posted anything or nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing at all. I am excited though. I think it's going to be fun.
I do too.
I think we're going to have a good time.
Yeah.
And I hope that just spreads to Mom.
I do
Even
too.
if she's in a really bad mood.
Yeah, I do too. With Lucas there, Lucas was always able to deflect and always able to help calm Mom down and make her smile when she was irritated. So I'm hoping that helps. I'm hoping the baby helps. I'm hoping the accordion man helps. I just want to soak it all in. I might have to walk away for a little bit and cry, but I just want to soak it all in, because every single time we hit a birthday or a holiday or, we never know. You just never know. We've got to do this. We've got to do this thing, because we might not be able to do it next year.
Yeah, there might not be a birthday next year.
Yeah.
So I agree. We're going to do it. We're going to do it upright. We're going to do it Jennifer and Jebby style.
Yeah. And that's our show, everyone. There are a lot of links in the show notes. Links for those that shared stories. And if you're in the Oregon area and want to book the Accordion Man, his website link is there too. Thank you so much for listening. We'd love it if you would rate and share this podcast. And we'd especially love it if you called in and shared your dementia or Alzheimer's story with us so we can share it with our listeners. When they forget, we remember.